Okay, everybody, we're going to start the meeting for February 15th for the Nantucket Conservation Commission. So let you know that the meeting is being recorded, and if you are recording, please let us know. Please quiet your cell phones, it'd be appreciated. And we're going to start with the public meeting, public comment. Anybody have any comments for items not being heard tonight? No. Great. Okay. So we're going to the public hearing, notices of intent. We have a few continuances. Edwin Snyder, RT, at 2 Brox Court, and Nantucket Island Land Bank, 17 Commercial Wharf are continued till March 15th. And Sunset House, LLC, at 15 Hallowell Lane is continued till March 1st. Also in the amended orders of conditions, 3 Beacon Lane, nominee trust at 3 Beacon Lane is continued till March 1st. If anyone is here for any of those and would like to make some comments, not going to be able to make it for those dates, I'd like to know. Seeing not, we will start with, where are we here? 141 Main Street, LLC, 141 Main Street.
Chairman, Kevin Dale for 141 Main Street, LLC. My colleague David Haynes is under the weather. And how many feet of snow, Michael? 2.5. Wow. So he didn't make it today. When we met last time on February 1st, this is a notice of intent to relocate and construct an in-ground swimming pool in the rear yard of the property at 141 Main Street, which the lot's an oversized lot in the ROH district. At its closest point, the pool will be roughly 90 feet from a bordering vegetated wetland to the north. And when we met last time, there was some discussion and questions about the depth of the groundwater and whether the pool, the excavation hole for the pool would pierce the groundwater. So we continued, or pierce the clay, get into the groundwater. The commission asked that we dig a test hole to determine where the groundwater is. Michael Conley, whom you know, surveyors here, he and Jesse Dutra went out to the property, dug the hole, and found that the water levels could not be observed at a depth of 7.5 feet. And I think you have David Haynes' letter in the file that confirms that. So we were able to determine that it was dry. There wasn't going to be water. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. And if you have any questions for Mike, who was there for the test and observed things, he's here too.
There was some question if the pool was going to be 8 feet. I think you noted in here. Was it? The machine couldn't get as, that was the best the machine could do. And what was the?
The depth is 6.
Okay, for bottom of foundation of the pool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
And the other pool was at 8, I think.
The other pool is deeper.
That's right.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
So it was the depth of the pool plus the foundation as well.
Yeah.
To get down to, so 7.5 feet is what we're going to do that.
I'm happy with that.
You good with
Unless
that?
we have information to properly grant a waiver.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Good.
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
Ready to close?
Well, I suppose, any other questions?
Oh.
Hold on.
They're all bailing out.
Yeah, I had to bail on it. No problem. I feel like I go through the procedures here. Any questions from the public? Okay, seeing not, do we have everything closed and we're ready to close? Yes, okay. Do we have a motion?
Close.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Gotta go through the procedures here. Okay. So Adam P. Klokowski, Living Trust at 57 Pulpus Road.
Bryan Madden from LEC Environmental, representing the applicant. The proposed project involved installation of a 20 by 40 foot pool that's 7 feet deep. wetland resource areas in play behind the house in the southern portion of the property are bordering vegetated wetlands. Demarcated by flags 1 through 8, I believe, spinning it off-site. On the little markup, I kind of extend the line a little bit that's off property, just to give you a sense of where that wetland is going. Where it terminates, it's basically just like a little fingertip to it. The majority of the wetland system is on the back side of the knoll, occupying the southern portion of the site, where there's a bunch of cedars and pines. The proposed pool itself is located outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. It'll be surrounded by a dry-laid patio. The fencing itself surrounding the pool is also located outside the 50-foot buffer. As shown on the plan, we are proposing a 168 square foot cabana on the west side of the pool patio area. Again, also outside the 50-foot buffer. And we try to maximize the setbacks off of the wetland as much as possible. That has been reviewed by Bruce and confirmed as accurate. The one kind of limiting factor here is the fact that there's a leach field in the back portion of the house. And some 20-foot separation to that. We've maintained a 20.5-foot separation as proposed. Did note that Joe had relayed that during your site visits on Monday, there was a fair amount of standing water in the back portion of the lawn area. I don't know if you guys saw it, but there's a sump pump drain line that basically discharges right here. It's only 2-inch PVC pipe. It's basically, I would put it somewhere right around here.
That's not marked on the plan
It's
anywhere?
not marked on the plan.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah, I didn't notice it either.
Yep. So it's
Long ways from that. That's
well, basically, I was out there earlier today, and there was water coming out of it, draining into that area. And I probably, if I could kind of piece together what was going on out there, that portion of the lawn area is shaded by the cedar trees. And then coming off of the snow that we got last week and then the rain over the weekend, I would imagine that you have somewhat frozen ground conditions that are holding up some of that standing water. But even earlier today, when I was out there, I did notice the area, a lot less standing water than the photograph that Joe has in front of her. So I think it's a combination of that sump pump presumably coming from the basement. And just some kind of frozen ground conditions. But we did, and I didn't submit this as part of the application, but I can send it around. Unfortunately, I have one copy. But we are stating that the pool, the 7-foot deep pool, has the 2 feet of separation to high groundwater. And that was based off of the soil logs for the septic system back in 2001, April 2001. It's a little bit old, but I think it's pretty telling in the sense that if you look at both the deep observation logs, there was no indication of any restrictive layer. It was all sandy loam or coarse sand or sand. And you look at some of the soil colors, nothing indicative of a kind of a variegated or restrictive layer that's holding up infiltration and drainage. Yeah, it's not directly in the pool, but it gives some indication,
an indication of what might be.
where.
Yeah.
Does this have, sorry to interrupt, does it have a foundation?
Full basement.
It's kind of like a walkout basement.
Yeah, built to the bottom.
So that was the basis for stating that the 7-foot pool would maintain that 2 feet of separation with estimated seasonal high groundwater at 10.5 feet. We are proposing to revegetate that area, that low-lying area, with some minimal grade changes, but again, sloping towards that low spot. And we were proposing to revegetate that with native plants that are also facultative or facultative wet of bayberry, highbush blueberry, arrowwood, and that's that cross-hatched area in red, to basically restore that, and that's all outside the proposed pool fence location, and just help restore that to a naturally vegetated state. So I guess I'll just turn over questions at this point.
So, I think this is a little bit like, maybe, except for the potential clay layer, it's a little bit like the Main Street house that we heard, where we asked if you could drill a hole down and see what you find at the bottom of your pool foundation to make sure that we're not going to get in, that we're not piercing into the wetland, into that groundwater. Is that a fair?
Yeah, I mean,
Fair ask.
I think that, yeah.
if the commission would like to see that, we can certainly provide that. Just give you the basis of, why we felt that 2 feet of separation was being met based off the soil logs. But again, that's 16 years old
Yeah.
and not in the exact location.
No, I appreciate that, but it does seem that it's
Yeah.
a little dated and
Yep.
it's pretty
Especially with
boggy.
that big puddle down there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at this time of the year.
And a very mossy
Yeah.
looking lawn.
Yep.
Yeah, the lawn is about half moss there, so.
Yep, we can certainly do that, provide that to the commission. It just in terms of overall hydrology here, I think it's just noteworthy. I don't know if everyone went out to the, kind of walked out the
Yeah.
back, but hydrology is a little bit interesting out here. So it's a little bit faint, but you can see an old stream extending through the southern portion of the property. There's no mapped wetlands out back, but from what I can gather, historically there was some kind of flow. If I can piece together that topography from east to west, and then kind of wrapping down to the south towards the terminus of Kelly Road. I think that hydrology has kind of been changed over the years, and so what you have is the wetland. There's some minimal superficial flow, and we're dealing with a perch wetland system here, kind of in this direction, and then it kind of like some superficial waters peter out this way, and there's drains into this low area.
Yeah.
And again, it's just that tip of the finger. But yeah, certainly we can take a look at that and make sure we have the 2 feet of separation, or just to see where the ground is.
Yeah, I think that would be just
I mean,
wise.
I think based on what we're proposing here, it's not going to impact hydrology of the wetland in terms of taking away any superficial drainage towards that direction. And again, I think a lot of that is fed by the sump pump for the basement. But we can take a closer look at that.
Because it does line up pretty perfectly with this
Yeah, it's that
extension
little,
of the wetland.
that little finger that
Yeah.
used to be the
That's a pretty
dumping
wet.
pad.
That's a pretty wet
Yeah,
basement to
there's a
create
lot
that.
of dumping going down up here too.
Okay.
How far is this pool fence from the wetland? Because that didn't seem
Oh, it's
to
50.
be marked.
Yeah, we had the 50-foot buffer. We kind of ran it right around the 50 foot.
Okay.
And anything outside of that fence was going to be replanted and left to naturally revegetate.
What's the cabana on?
I can confirm, but I would imagine sonotubes. So that's what the shed's on.
Yeah. Quick and simple.
Yep.
Other questions? Questions from the public? Okay. So would you like to continue for 2 weeks? Okay, so we'll continue unless there's any objection for 2 weeks. Thank you very much. Ugrass LLC, 11 Sherburne Turnpike.
LEC Environmental. Proposed project, hopefully very simple and straightforward. It's just a demo or move off of the existing house and restoring the disturbed footprint with loam and seed. Lawn grasses, Cape Cod lawn mix, or other lawn grasses as approved by the commission. We've identified on the plans the top of the coastal bank, and the existing extent of lawn area is a little outside the 25-foot buffer. A portion of the existing deck is within the 50-foot buffer to the top of the bank. There's also coastal dune at the toe of the slope that we didn't depict, but it's greater than 100 feet away from the proposed work activity, as well as some flood zone closer towards the sound. So again, very simple, just removing the structure, and there's a little bit of grade changes, but we're not proposing any major changes. This is basically tying in existing contours and trying to minimize the footprint as much as possible. The only really grade changes of note is basically outside or just outside the commission's jurisdiction. There's a retaining wall up by the driveway. That's probably the only area where there's going to be some need to a little bit more regrading taking place. But 6 inches of loam will be brought in as necessary before reseeding, and we are proposing to have erosion control barriers along that lawn edge to contain all work activities.
So are you keeping the parking kind of...
Keeping the shell driveway, yeah, there's an easement there. I don't know all the details there,
Right.
but
On the
keeping the
fence.
shell driveway.
Questions?
Not for me.
Seems simple. Questions from the public? No? Excellent. Do we have everything we need to close? Would you like to close? Do we have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. Request for determination. James J. and Mary P. Houlihan. 28 Swift Rock Road.
John Bracken Engineering. We have an RDA to confirm the wetland boundaries. The wetland is a bordering vegetated wetland flagged by David Haynes in October, located by our surveys and shown on the plan submitted. Not proposing any work at this time. Believe the wetland line was reviewed by Bruce Perry, and he was in agreement with the flags. And that's pretty much it. Got any questions?
Questions? Questions from the public? No? Okay. We have everything we need? Someone like to make a motion?
We have to do the what positive, negative.
Yeah, so it's something to a negative.
Yeah.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Negative 3.
Any opposed? That one passes unanimously. Amended orders of conditions. 12 Oak Hollow Lane, 12B Oak Hollow Road.
Okay. Again, Don Bracken from Bracken Engineering. This property has an existing order of conditions that's due to expire in a few months. So also on the agenda is the extension for that. New owners came in and decided to completely change the site development and footprints. Previously, we had a cottage within the 100-foot buffer, which has been taken out, but now we have a proposed burn within the 100-foot buffer. The driveway configuration is basically the same from the road up to about 100, 120 feet, where that gets reconfigured. No structures within the 50-foot buffer, same as before. No work within the 25-foot buffer. It's an isolated vegetated wetland. Flags were obviously approved in the last permit go-around. The main house, other site improvements are outside the 100-foot buffer. Also included, same as on the previous application, is a sewer force main that goes along the driveway and then along the road, goes up to Old Caller Lane. We've shown the extent of it just beyond where the 100-foot buffer is to that isolated wetland.
What is this proposed depression by the driveway?
That's just there's a low point in the driveway at that location, so it's just a place for the water to collect rather than to allow it to get concentrated and create some erosion going toward the wetland. And it is still a pervious driveway, but the way the grades work, there will be some runoff going down to that area. It would just be either grass, wetland, or allowed to grow in naturally.
Okay, but not
Not
planting
grass,
anything that would
grass,
help
no.
with the water flow or anything like that?
I think with the volume of water that's there and the depth of groundwater, it's just going to be a very slight depression. But we don't have any specifics on what's there, what we're going to plant there, but and we certainly would be agreeable if you wanted to see shrubbery or something there rather than grass.
Yeah, I
The
mean, I guess
water
when I
would be
see,
collecting there.
yeah,
Yeah.
do something a little more proactive. This proposed greenhouse,
Yes.
are we gonna be like fertilizing plants in there?
That I can't answer that question. I don't know. I'm specific on that. I don't know.
Do we have, is it a foundation or a slab, or do you know that?
I don't know that
Okay.
information either. I have a feeling it's probably just going to, typically aren't they on crushed stone and sit on crushed stone or maybe 4x4
Yeah.
under the structure.
It depends, depends on
Right.
Yeah.
It just worries me with an isolated wetland, all of the things we approved before, like we're moving closer to the wetland with these proposals, and both a barn and a greenhouse tell me that there will be nutrients, unless the barn is like just a term for a fancy looking garage structure.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
The latest term.
Don't see a lot of room for animals down there unless they're.
No. Yeah. I think maybe it's just going to look like a barn. But
Well,
they actually don't have building plans yet for the barn. They're not really. They're getting ready to apply for a permit for the main house. The barn is something they want in the future, so I don't have any plans to be able to tell you specifically what it's
Right.
like for us.
27 by, what is this thing, 8?
192 square feet.
Yeah.
Zoning shed greenhouse.
109, that's pretty, yeah.
Yes. You should have called it a shed. Not a greenhouse.
well, perfect. Then.
Same with the cabana out in the back. Either one. They're going to have to choose.
Well, I don't think we can speculate on what and if they're going to be using fertilizer in there. It's got to follow the fertilizer regs past the 50 anyway.
Yeah.
So no changes, no additional structures past the 50, right?
Right.
Everything pretty much is sort of the same conditions as it relates to the wetland.
From what was previously.
Distance-wise, yeah, it
Yes, yeah.
seems pretty close to the same.
We did submit a plan, this is it, in red showing what was approved before, but I highlighted in yellow where the previous cottage was approved.
ground cover, maybe.
How, is there consistent vegetation from the wetland out, or where does that stop?
In which direction?
So like, where is there lawn here, or what's happening on this side? I'm just wondering if there's like vegetation to protect what's going to the
There is,
wetland.
yeah, this is pretty heavily vegetated around, at least within the 50. There was some clearing, I think years ago in the back. This was all one property at one time.
So,
But I mean, that 25-foot buffer definitely exists.
okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? Questions from the public? Okay. Do you have a recommendation? Is everything there?
Yeah, recommend.
Already closed. Do we have a recommendation? Anyone make the motion?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that one passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, 62 Wall Street, LLC, 62 Wall Street.
Thank you. For the record, Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors, representing the applicant 62 Wall Street LLC. This is an amended order of conditions request for a developed parcel of land located at 62 Wall Street, where the resource area is land subject to coastal storm flowage. There are no wetlands adjacent or on the site, so it's strictly an application for land subject to coastal storm flowage. The amendment is twofold. We had been before this board back a few months ago for the approval of a proposed 396 square foot garage at the front of the property and the relocation of the existing shell driveway. In the rear of the property, we had permitted a raised spa in an already developed portion or patio on the backside of the existing dwelling. This application does away with the raised spa and simply on the backside of the dwelling creates a covered porch over what's already an existing bluestone patio. And then in the front of the structure, we are doing away with the 396 square foot garage and seeking permission for a 140 square foot shed along the front with an attached outdoor shower. Parking area is essentially still generally in the same location as was previously approved. So those are the only two amendments to the order. They are actually both, I feel, less intrusive on the site than what we had previously proposed. And that's simply it. The order originally was issued with the garage with two conditions: that the garage roof drainage be put into a shallow recharge area, and I think that there was a requirement too that no hazardous materials be stored in the garage area itself. And other than that, that's the application. There has been a letter submitted from an abutter, correct it, right? And they did ask, I think as part of the request, that it be read into the public hearing. So I'll be happy to do it, or Joe can do it, however you'd want to. Or if they or if you have it, if that's enough to be read in, or you want me to read the letter. I'll read the letter. To Nantucket Conservation Commission, request for an amended order of conditions of 62 Wall Street. Please read it. Public hearing on February 15th, 2017. Dear sirs, we reside at 60 Wall Street, directly abutting 62 Wall Street to the east. We received your notice of the February 15th Conservation Commission meeting on February 12th when we returned home from being out of the country. Since we are unable to be on island for the meeting, we would appreciate your consideration of our concerns outlined below. We are very concerned about the construction of a shed and outdoor shower in front of 62 Walsh and directly abutting our property line. Such a building will take away the only piece of open space to the west of our home and create a Berlin Wall, in quotation, of buildings to our west with little or no green space as a buffer. Our living quarters are upstairs, and our family spends a lot of time on the upstairs deck. By leaving the front of their property free of structures, our former neighbors at 62 Wall Street were sensitive to our needs by preserving a view of green lawns and hedges for us to look out on. Since our new neighbors at 62 Wall Street have bought substantial property to the west of the existing house, there should be ample room in the direction to place a shed where it won't be such an eyesore. We are frankly horrified at these developments, which would impinge so negatively on our living space. We also feel that we were given no chance to make our needs known to anyone before the original plans were approved. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, William and Elizabeth Fulberth. They are represented by Whit Gifford. I did speak to Whit yesterday. His indication to me was the major concern, or one of their concerns, was the issue of that outdoor shower. From a standpoint of, they were afraid that they would be looking down on top and into the shower if somebody were to come in and utilize that outdoor shower. I think the shower's in an area where it's more so somebody's coming in off with a car or walking, cleaning off their feet, sand and so forth, and then going into the structure. But I did forward this letter, and I did also discuss with Botticelli and Pohl, who was the architect, and also Elizabeth O'Rourke, who was the landscape architect, the concerns, and they are currently looking at either some type of covering over the shower to alleviate the concerns of the neighbor. And hopefully, the two of them can come to an agreement on, what's appropriate for that particular area. The garage and the revised shed actually have already been approved by the HDC. So I don't know what the notification is process, or whether they commented at the HDC level or not. But as far as we're concerned, what we had approved previously was the garage. We're diminishing what we had previously approved. Also, that area right now is currently essentially a parking area that in the summer is typically 2 to 3 cars in that front area, where now there's going to be simply a smaller shed. So hopefully they can come to some agreement between them with regard to being good neighbors to each other. The reference to additional land to the west is the fact that 64 Wall Street has currently been purchased by the same person who owns 62 Wall Street. And what they're looking to do is kind of essentially merge these two properties together and eventually expand the building at 62 Wall Street and then build a secondary dwelling out in the back. The existing structure that was on 64 Wall Street has now has been demolished, and that's currently a vacant parcel of land. So I think that's the reference to the area to the west. So hopefully they'll be able to discuss this among themselves. I think the application before you is simply for the shed itself, and there was no mention in their letter about the covered porch on the back. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. What's that?
You know how tall the shed is?
I'm assuming it's a standard, it's 140 square feet. It's probably, what's a standard shed? 10 feet high, 12 feet high, and that's it, yes. Yeah. The garage was substantially more significant than what was previously approved.
Off of this corner.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
They're not
Yeah.
sure what they're going to look at.
Yeah.
So,
Is the covered porch going to have roof drainage, or is that just going to sheet off?
it'll sheet off, but that's already, actually, it's a bluestone patio. It's not really impervious back there now anyway, so it's being constructed on top of an existing impervious area. But I would think they'll probably want to do something to capture the drainage, only because it'll just start dropping. It doesn't encompass the entire patio area, so if they didn't do something to capture it, it may, may just create a lot of water back there anyway. It's the same amount of water that's going to fall now is going to fall in that area. It's just going to hit the roof before it hits the patio. And I believe the plan is to expand out this way, so we can, by all means, look at potentially, if that's an area that we could capture that in a shallow drainage area, we'd be happy to try to do that.
That's already in the previous approval, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, this was a vacant lot that was developed. I think it was sold by the Fulberth. I think it was actually part of that property originally. But it was sold to a prior owner. This is a new owner now that we're talking about, that we're working with.
So the covered porch is probably up on piers,
Yes.
so water, no problem with water.
Yeah, it's just it's a roof with columns,
Yeah, right.
supporting it. Yeah.
No flow
It's not an
issues.
enclosed porch.
Other questions? Questions from the public? Okay. Seeing not, we have everything we need. You have recommendation?
Yeah, recommend be approved.
Okay. Someone like to make that motion? Second? All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you.
Hollover LLC, 165 Walwinet Road.
Bryan Madden from Boise Environmental, representing the applicant for the request to amend the order of conditions. It was issued back in November for extension of the boardwalk and beach stairs out on the coastal dune. During that review process, we had discussed with Natural Heritage the relocation of some snow fencing on the property. That previously was out on the beach. There was 2 rows of fencing. It was damaged within the last 5 years or so, and all that remains is a wood post out on the beach. So during that discussions with Natural Heritage, they had some concerns about impacts to bird activity, plovers out on the beach. So through consultation with them, what we ended up doing is relocating the snow fencing further landward. So it's 25 to 45 feet off the top of the dune scarp, actually within the dune itself. And it's typical specs, 40-inch tall slat wire fencing, 1.5-inch wide slats, at least 2 inches apart, 3/8 inch thick. They'll be supported by 4x4 wood posts every 10 feet. And the installation will be done by hand to avoid impacts to the existing beach grass cover and dune stability. And we did propose work activities between April 1 and August 31st. And Natural Heritage issued their letter this morning, just reiterating the same time of year restrictions that were put on the beach stairs, and we're aiming to complete the work by April 1.
So Brian, it's kind of the old style of fencing with the kind of narrow slats and then wired together.
Yep.
We've kind of been discouraging that since it tends to. Of course, you're not using the metal stakes, though, right? You're going to be wood stakes.
4x4 wood posts.
Yes, so it'll be more durable anyway.
Yeah.
And this is kind of off of the beach, so the intent is just to build up the dune a little bit more.
And this would be a permanent.
Will this build up the dune anymore? It just seems like kind of an arbitrary location in the middle of the dune to me, and I haven't seen tons of evidence of success from these fences.
Well, I think having that sort of design out on the beach that experience a lot more erosion and wind and wave action. Through Natural Heritage, they felt that this would help to build up the dune. I'm not going to say it's going to go the full height of it, but I think it will trap some wind-blown sand coming through that area. That's the intent of it.
So we don't have a rush. We don't have a water issue. This dune's mostly got a dune, so that's a good sign. Everything's pretty stable in front of this.
Yeah, for the most part. We did look at some shoreline changes. I think over the last 100 years, there's about a 4-foot per year of loss of the coastal beach.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of a preventative measure to avoid the need for something a lot more robust down the road.
Right. We usually do a lot of these without too much of a question.
It was unusual to be up in the dune.
I know. I know.
Yeah, Natural Heritage was pretty adamant and opposed to having that on the beach to avoid birds.
Although I tell you what, where I grew up, we had Christmas trees we put up into the dune fields when we were kids, and it did. It prevented the barrier beach from going away for years, and they were kept way up in. There wasn't a minimal beach issue, but they did catch the snow. That and all the wood cable wheels they stacked them.
The balloons that fell lot. This is basically a fully vegetated dune with beach grass?
For the most part, yeah.
Other questions?
That works pretty well too.
Yeah.
Like are we gonna just, I know it's minimal disruption to the beach grass roots, but I don't know if I see the benefit in this one.
Comments from the public? No. Any other questions? Concerns? Okay. Have everything we need to close? Recommendation? Someone like to make that recommendation?
Move to issue.
Let's do a second. Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that one passes with Commissioner Harrison opposed.
Thank you.
It does pass, yeah, good for it. That's good enough. No problem. Yeah, we should put everything in the dunes. So,
3 beacons that continue.
no, let's see, 3 beacons continued. So we're going to the public meeting, certificates of compliance, Nantucket Island Land Bank, off Gully Road, off North Gully Road.
This is just for the replacement of the stairs.
Yep.
That's the beach that was
Okay, do you have a recommendation for this one?
to issue
Are there any
Any
ongoing
questions on-
conditions or anything?
Yeah.
Any ongoing conditions or anything?
no.
Oh, okay. That's right. Wait,
That's on there. Okay. Yeah.
In that case, I'll move to issue the certificate if we're ready for that.
Okay. Good.
I will second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Passes unanimously. And Fab Act 2 LLC, 15 Loretta Lane.
So this is just to close out and certificate on work that we've never carried out on this property over this 2191.
Any discussion on this? Straightforward? Okay.
Okay, motion issue.
Like to make that motion?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? No. Passes unanimously. Sanford, 1622 26 Easton Street.
This is for the replacement of the full check. Onto the 3 properties, 16, 22, and 26.
You have a recommendation on this one? Okay.
Built
It's a
should've
rebuild.
been.
It's the rebuild of the bulkhead.
Motion approved.
You have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We have 2 reissues, same property, since we're just doing them individually or at the same time. At Taylor at 78 Millbrook Road.
It was never recorded.
Oh, okay. So would someone like to make the motion to approve the reissue?
Move to reissue those 2.
Okay, do you have a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay, all's in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. So we will approve the reissues in both cases. And let me just sign these. Okay, so orders of conditions. We didn't do the name. Land Bank, Main Street, 141 Main Street LLC, 141 Main Street. This is the pool.
Have anything to add to this one?
I just can't remember if with some of our closer pools, if we've been asking for drainage logs, just one just seems so easy to put the hose into the back of the wind.
Let's do it.
And I
Done
can't
a
remember
lot.
what
There
our
was-
language was with that.
Well, number 19 is our kind of
Yeah.
standard language.
Right. I mean, we never police these things unless they're in an area you can't dump it. We only did that because there was no property outside the 100, I think, in that one particular one, so it had to be trucked off.
Well, we could probably just speak to Jesse on this. So, part of the orders of conditions on pools that are in proximity to a wetland, we ask that the pool, if you're draining it for any reason or discharging any water, that discharged outside of the 100-foot buffer. Is that possible on this site?
I saw that 19 kind of says that.
Into the sewer
Street.
drain out front, is that where we have to go? Or something?
Either way, it's gonna be a public problem.
Yeah.
So the only reason why you would drain it would be to remodel it or something like that, which would be, say, once every 10, 15 years, hopefully anyways.
Oh.
And so, sure.
Yeah, could you give me your name again, please, for
So,
the
I mean,
record?
with that taken into consideration and the fact that the 100-foot buffer kind of crosses through the pool, so most of the property is outside the 100-foot buffer, and also, neighboring properties. I'm not sure if, we could discharge the water outside the 100-foot buffer,
Yeah.
being that we're right on the edge anyways.
Could you give your name for the record for the record?
Oh, Jesse Dutra.
Thanks,
The
sorry.
flow, it has to be
Just
far
like a
enough
flow.
outside because it's
You
gonna
don't
flow
want it- you don't want
back
it-
towards
It
the
wants to get back
wetland,
into
so.
I mean, the idea is to keep it from flowing back into.
Right, like up in the front yard or
Right.
something. Thank you.
I don't know, actually, you want to explore that?
No,
I'm like,
yeah, I mean, maybe these just need to be policed more during food training. I think this is fine.
do we feel the need to do the wording of the chlorination or treatment at a certain date? Doesn't seem like a lot that's prone to flooding.
That was a unique case where the
Those were down at the coastal
Low
storm
level.
flow.
This one's fairly high up,
Yeah.
so I don't think that's a deal. Okay. So we're all happy with the conditions?
So
Okay.
I'll move to issue as drafted.
Okay, do we have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay. So, Adams continued Eelgrass LLC at 11 Sherburne Turnpike. This is the house removal.
There's no irrigation on this, I don't think. It's just kind of scraping the house, like seeding it.
Yeah, they're gonna,
They don't have fertilizer restrictions. And
right, they're not asking for anything. Irrigation. Any other concerns?
Yeah, I think the only funny part was gonna be the fill on the other side of the retaining wall.
Yeah, which is up, who's that on the hundred?
That's where the
Pretty much
homeowners
outside
are
our
with it.
jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Better not having a house there. Good. Okay. Someone like to make a motion?
Issue was drafted.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, that one passes unanimously. Very good. Extension orders. First, we have Stock at 50 Squam Road. They're requesting withdrawal.
Which one did you just do?
Just the Eelgrass LLC at 11
Okay.
Sherburne Turnpike.
You did 41 Main.
We did 141 Main, and Koklowski is continued.
Oh, okay.
The
So it's
57
already-
Pulpus. Yeah, no problem.
I got that.
Yeah. It's getting clever here for sure. Okay. So,
So this is just for the extension of the O'Connell Lane project, just for you, for 12A O'Connell Lane.
oh, right.
It's due to run out in April.
Okay.
For you.
The one that we just, yeah. Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve the
Motion to
withdrawal?
issue the extension.
Oh, actually, I think we're doing a withdrawal. No, the stock at 50 Squam.
Oh, you have to, okay, sorry. Okay, motion to issue the withdrawal.
50 Squam.
Oh, I thought you might do both of those.
Oh, no, I haven't done, no, I didn't, we hadn't done the Squam yet.
So do we have to move to issue the withdrawal, is that?
To approve the withdrawal.
Or accept the withdrawal, okay.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? No, so accepting the withdrawal of stock at 50 Squam. Now we're at Wallace at 12B Oak Hollow. That is an extension.
So they're looking
That's straightforward.
for 1 year extension.
3 1 year? Just 1 year?
Just 1 year, yeah.
Okay. Would someone like to make that motion to approve the extension
Motion to issue the
for
extension.
Wallace?
For Wallace.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Wallace is approved. And the last one is the Oak Hollow Realty Trust at 12A Oak Hollow Lane extension.
Yeah, they're looking for 1 year extension too.
And that's a 1 year extension. Oh, yeah, okay. With, Commissioner Topham recused. Oh, we have enough. Oh, we have just enough. Okay.
Just enough. Motion to issue.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. No one opposed. Passes. Commissioner Topham recused. Other business. Approval of minutes.
Thank you, Terry.
Oh, in the minutes. Oh, wait a minute. Well, so, this is important. Oh. Oh, did you have I'm sorry, I don't want to get too far off track here, but we can, well, it's nothing to do with the minutes.
No.
Okay, so if the minutes, there's no discussion, we'll approve the minutes by unanimous consent. And, no one came in later? Okay, I got that. I can go to the sidetrack here if you're ready. Did you have a comment that you weren't here at the beginning? I know, I just maybe missed it.
Is this for Fargo Way? No, yeah, we're not there yet.
Well, I mean, we're kind of at the tail end of the
Kind
meeting.
of a deviation here.
Does anyone have a problem with sort of, instead of going through the last of the items and
I'm happy to hear it.
enforcement actions? I wasn't sure.
Well, yeah, I think it would have been happy to be at the beginning of the public comment.
Yeah, it's usually,
Yeah, I must have missed it in the first couple minutes.
yeah,
I'm sorry, I was just going to wait
trying
till
to
the
figure,
end.
kind of, okay.
Yeah,
I'm looking at my
that's up to your discretion, whatever.
Well,
I'm happy to hear it, we're here.
Yeah, I don't mind.
I don't mind, unless anyone has a problem, slip it in so that,
Yes, and forgive me for my ignorance of the
oh,
proceedings.
don't worry.
My name is Frank Daly. This is Rachel Powers. We're butters to the community gardens at 168 Hummock Pond Road. We are at 164 Hummock Pond Road. Just this past week, it came to our attention that there is an expansion of the gardens underway on the land bank property directly behind us. The reason that this came to our attention and the reason why we bring this in front of the board is that, in front of the commission, is that there were active mowing in this field through wetlands. We're currently surveying our property, and there's been a wetland survey being done as they kind of cross our borders here. So we're very well aware that there are wetlands here, and the primary cause for concern. When we went to speak with Sustainable Nantucket, they had been very quick at explaining to us all of these kind of ways of going around the Wetlands Protection Act and how they don't fall under the regular rubric of bringing this to the attention of the Concom, and how there are certain exemptions under agricultural provisions, all of which sounds somewhat plausible, but we have a lot of points of contention with. And the fact that this commission was unaware of this, the land bank commissioners also were unaware of exactly what Sustainable Nantucket had under way, that we felt the need to kind of exhaust all avenues to bring it to as many people's attention as possible before this gets any further down the path where nothing, wetlands are irrevocably changed and nothing can be put back the way it was.
So, thanks for coming, Frank.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
This is
Frank
exactly
actually
what we
reached out to me and Jeff at the office last week in regards to this, and we did a site visit out to the community gardens, and we, at the time, were unable to locate the cutting that Frank was actually talking about. So, since then, I've been in interaction with Frank, and Jeff also spoke to Mark at the DP that you contacted in regards to it too. I wasn't privy to the email between Jeff and Mark at DP as to where they were. I don't know if you want that email, but I know Jeff is looking into it, and I touched base with Rachel, and when Jeff gets back, we're going to sit down and go through that and probably go back and take a look at the site, because I know I did email you to find out exactly where it was.
Yeah.
Thank you for sending me the plan and showing me exactly where the
Yeah,
plan was.
appreciate that.
Has Joe, to your knowledge, has there been anything like a cease and desist issue to the community, to sustainable, is it sustainable, Frank?
Yes.
So,
Not that I'm aware of. My last conversation with Jeff was we weren't sure if that was an agricultural use or not.
Right, it's a great area for sure.
Right.
That's kind of the path we're going down to find out now. So when he gets back next week, hopefully we can fix the bottom of it and make sure everything
Find out what went on.
Yeah, there's weird rules about agriculture, because when we were doing the fertilizer regs, we looked, you have to exempt agriculture.
Right.
But there's certain definitions of what agriculture is, and I'm not sure a garden qualifies. I mean, they call themselves a community farm,
Right.
but they're really a garden
It
cooperative.
was originally farmland, though, way
Well,
back.
it was once, but it's not. I mean, it's
No, I
been a long
understand.
time they've lost that.
Well, that's the gray area that we're really
Yeah.
finding is in the Wetlands Protection Act. It says continuous agricultural use with a 5-year kind of wait period.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
it's been out of agricultural use for 5 years. Now, the land
Oh,
bank
lease,
mows
yeah.
their properties once a year, and they're using that to say that was their agricultural use, quote unquote.
Right.
That seems to be a pretty large stretching of the definitions here. And not to mention, maybe one of our personal points is that this has been horse paddocks for years, and there were some goats on there as well. What they're talking about now is tilling the topsoil and then adding on top of that raised beds. Well, that hasn't been, these have not been growing vegetables
Right.
for at least 2 generations since her family was growing on there. So it's really the change of use of what this area is going to be just seems very inappropriate. And I know this is maybe outside of the Concom's jurisdiction, but the original intention of her father selling this property was to leave it as is.
Mhm.
So it's,
Okay.
you can
That's
see why we're
something that-
trying to
definitely.
exhaust all
That's a
avenues.
discussion to have with the land bank, I mean, if that was,
Yes.
Or also, if Sustainable has board meetings, to maybe try and approach them about,
We met with them today.
okay.
Yeah.
Right. And we have started speaking to, I think we have 4 of the 5 commissioners of the land bank.
Yeah.
And again, they all said they had no idea.
Yeah, that's not a
So-
very good sign.
No. No. Most of the commissioners knew her father as well, so they were very privy to what his original intent was, and they understand
Yeah.
that this is,
Okay.
they're just stretching us a little far.
Great. Well, when Jeff gets back, we'll
Yeah.
it's really
figure out what.
wet back there.
Yeah.
I sometimes walk that stretch back there, and yeah, it's pretty darn wet.
Yeah.
It's very wet, and it's also the migratory birds back there, and that was one of the first things we asked was, what was the environmental impact study? We sit here, look out our window, and there's migratory birds all year long, and there's no wetlands flagged. The birds have never been. I'm a contractor, so these are the first things we have to do when you're
Yeah.
building something. And I say, why is this any different? I mean, they are putting structures up and all the rest of it. So just want them to do their due diligence and make sure that they're dotting their i's, crossing their t's. So,
No, that's great.
all right. Well, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. I appreciate your time.
Need to do anything, Chelsea, for this then? Do we need to,
Project?
give you guys instruction, or is it enough just to have you guys go look at it now?
Yeah, I think we'll probably just get back and look at the site again, and if we need to put it on the agenda, bring it back
Okay.
in this section.
Is it sort of general opinion that they're not going to continue on with any more work until we get some sort of resolution on this, or is this?
They were back yesterday measuring plots behind
Yeah.
our house, further from when they originally stopped that.
Might be worth trying to, I don't know if you can, Joe, but give them a call.
A long time.
Or call the land bank and.
Oh, and
tell them where the property
maybe
is.
AM Sustainable and say, hold the press here.
Yeah.
I think Eric Savetsky's away, but maybe Rachel's.
Rachel will take care
Yeah, I
of
mean,
it.
I did see Rachel today, she popped into the office, and I spoke with her briefly. Yeah, I can call her again tomorrow.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. Guarantee it. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Well, that worked pretty good because now we're enforcement actions. Thanks for slipping that in.
So we don't really have anything in the report for next week.
Got this letter from Thompson, or about Thompson.
Yeah, that's next on the
Oh, okay.
the business.
Yeah.
So, I know just because I'm looking at the minutes from last time, so staff will go check that 10 Fargo Way in the clearing at the top of the left.
Okay, so now we're on to Thompson, 14 Fargo Way.
So Jeff drafted a letter based on the concerns held at the last meeting. I went through that with you, and
You know, I read through the order of conditions and said,
yeah, because I sent that over to you, right?
yeah, we haven't really met many of these.
I got an editorial comment on the letter here. It's not spelling, it's the third line from the bottom. It says, structure, the commission is viewing, ordering its removal. And I think viewing is, I would change that to considering or something like that. Because viewing sounds like we're gonna go out and watch them.
I can amend that.
Just as ordering.
Well,
I think we were beyond considering it, aren't we?
Well, yeah, no, it's supposed to,
We
they were
said
gonna,
2 weeks, we had to have proof that
they were gonna start.
the fill had actually been appropriately
Right.
applied.
And they also never came in. I guess they never came in and
Really,
With the
I don't know,
this is asking them to come in now. I
thought we did that already
yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Well, I think if you want to put it on as an agenda, and that you use the letter before we send it out.
Commission is.
We're asking them to come in at the March 1st meeting. And if we're gonna order the removal, I thought we were gonna,
Okay, the commission would like you to discuss these, given the proper retain. All right, is considering. I guess if we're asking them to meet, we can say we're also ordering the removal. But what's a stronger word?
I don't know, on the verge of ordering is,
Yeah, right.
is,
You're dangerously close.
I really am.
Seek probation.
so you say we sound like my little
Such a
kids.
threat.
Yeah, like when we look through our minutes,
This time.
we say if the sand isn't delivered, and that was within 2 weeks we were talking, it will have met its failure criteria. And I mean, I read through their order and then the meeting they came in. I mean, they have literally met, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this thing has never been in compliance and we're like year 3 now maybe.
Yeah.
So this is why even, do conditions if this is what's
Right,
the
I'm under the
product.
impression we sent them the letter
Yeah.
saying to come in by this meeting.
I mean, should we say to come in to discuss its removal as it's
Well,
net
that
failure,
might
as
actually
it's
sound
hit
better.
its failure criteria? Because I don't want to give them false hopes. I mean, I think at this
Right.
point, it's too little too late to be dumping sand over that thing.
I think then you just say, the commission is ordering its removal, come on in, we're ordering its removal. So take out viewing, take out considering, just write, the commission is ordering its removal.
I mean, that's
It's pretty direct.
right.
Yeah.
Joe, what do you think of, is that,
I just wondered if Jeff wrote that to give them a chance to come in. And
Yeah, I
in
thought it was
person,
pretty
have a
understood it.
discussion about where it's at, and then go
Jeff wrote
forward
this.
in the next meeting as to what you want to do.
Well,
I mean,
Otherwise they'll probably
how
just
long ago
stay.
were they notified of not being in compliance, though? We've now gone multiple meetings where they should have been here. I mean, that's,
If you want me to change the wording, I'm happy to.
I know, I'm curious why Jeff wrote it like this.
yeah, he's pretty careful, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He chose that word pretty carefully, I'm sure, viewing. It's removal, yeah.
I mean, I tend to side on the side of the letter. If Jeff wrote it like this, they must have some.
Well, it's given him one last chance.
And as it says, he always wants a winnable case, so this may be his last piece.
Maybe.
Yeah, otherwise you're gonna get a stay, it's either gonna get an attorney and go get a stay.
Right.
All right. Well,
I mean, I'd be in favor of just sending this one back out, and I don't know how we, maybe we word it saying,
I can change your
we
viewing.
will remove in 2 weeks if we don't hear. We will, submitting this as an order of removal in 2 weeks. Well, that's what he said.
well, I don't think Jeff would, that's not a word you, that's not a word that you put in just as a filler, that's a pretty
Confirm your
deliberate
attendance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
verbiage, so let's just keep it.
Yeah. So he's basically looking for a March 1st. When's that? That's 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah. So it's the next meeting, so
Yeah.
comes in, go forward from there, and then if you feel like.
Yeah, if it's a no-show.
Yeah, if he's not here,
Unless it's a wizard or something that can't get here, but.
Are we going to have enough people at this meeting for?
that's a good question.
I won't be.
As far as I'm aware, Ben and Joe are the only absent teams because they've spoken to everybody else.
Okay.
Other than
Well, I'll be
everyone's
here.
gonna be here.
You'll be here, Andy.
I'll be here.
David's gonna be here, Joe's there.
Ian's here. Ashley, you're not going anywhere. School vacation.
no, this meeting was smack in the middle of the week, so I stayed.
Just bring your cell phones to the
No
slopes.
stopping me.
They're ready for Tuesday.
Just so as long as we have enough to vote
Yeah.
on this, or have a meeting, for that matter.
If you don't let us know, we'll call him.
We'll call in just for that moment. Good. Okay, well,
Skype that one.
Yeah.
guess we need a
We got a
motion,
big screen.
a motion to approve this letter.
Yeah, motion to approve the letter.
Okay,
Second.
all those in favor? Aye. So would you like me to sign this letter? Or is this
Unless
gonna
you,
be-
what is it, what you want to do in order to.
No, I think we just, without Jeff here to, well, I think Jeff had a,
Alright,
yeah, discussing, but I can have to sign this one.
Still to change that word, but that's just.
Oh, the one, the, viewing order, so change that one.
I'm gonna put deliberating,
Commission is
removal.
I think we should keep it just. 'cause-
recommending,
Just-
maybe.
Well, let's just leave it, we already voted it the way it is, let's keep it.
I think it's probably,
Yeah.
Does he normally
He has a
send these
reason.
letters
He has
up
a
to
reason.
town council?
Viewing
No.
order.
Pardon?
Does he normally send this letter?
I don't think so.
And this project's been discussed with town council.
Yeah.
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 I mean, he might have spoke to George before he wrote the letter, but I wasn't privy.
Okay.
Maybe that's what he was waiting for. Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. Reports. CPC, don't have that. Excellent. MPDC, nothing. Mosquito control,
Nothing.
nothing. Any other, no? Commissioner comments? No commissioner comments? Administrative staff reports? No? Okay.
Joe's holding down the fort there. How long is Jeff going for?
Jeff is back next Wednesday.
I know, I don't want to rush his vacation.
The only reason I knew
Time flies
was
when you think about it.
Rachel, Abby ran into my wife and helped her pick out clothes, so.
Anybody going to MACC
Okay.
this year?
No.
MACC conference? No.
No,
Yep.
be traveling.
School vacation.
I did send out the email if there's any interest for anybody, but I know falls on the weekend of travel.
I was gonna reach out to you. Say this time on track.
I was waiting.
I know.
Are you going, Emily?
Are you going?
Yeah, I am, yeah. Yeah, there's some interesting stormwater sessions that I think Joe and I are going to take.
You going as well, Joe?
Yeah, I'll go.
Nice.
Do we need to sign up for that? Is that
If you let me know, I can do it for you, or you can go online instead. So.
But I think they accept them like up to the day.
Or is that Holy Cross?
Yeah,
I feel like
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing it. I just got sidetracked with so many other things going on. I haven't looked at that yet. Still all the emails.
But the
still.
date is March, is that,
You guys
Saturday, but you gotta go up
It's the
Friday.
Saturday.
right, but it's that first Saturday.
Saturday.
And there's
Yeah.
vacation.
No, the fourth.
Yeah.
It's March 4th.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Are you going 2 weeks?
no, it's the week.
I'll look at the agenda again.
Land that day. and it's
Traveling on my vacation.
No, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you said someone. Sounds good.
It's like 10 days from now.
Oh, that's soon.
How many hours? Okay.
Okay, we have a motion, I guess we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?